every star system in the galaxy has its own theme, its own speciality, and the Andromedans are very much interested in color, music, sound, and working with the concept of impermanence. And so everything in Andromeda is seen as an ongoing art project where it's more important to be creative. It's more important for things to be interactive and be in flux, much like a dream state is, than for there to be solid states of static experiences and objects. And that is Andromeda's contribution to the consciousness of the galaxy. And of course, the beings in the Andromedan system are more non-physical than physical. So there's less physicality and more of an ascension has occurred of the physicalized beings into non-physical consciousness. And so a lot of the contributions are done energetically and with non-physical consciousness rather than beings showing up with their bodies and sitting at a round table and talking about the issues facing the galaxy. Although that does happen with some of the fourth dimensional Andromedans.
Hey beautiful soul, I'm Hayden Crawford, your host and soul guide here at the Dreamtime Academy, a cosmic mystery school for starseeds and truth seekers, just like you, who are looking at rediscovering your inner wisdom for a life of more freedom, joy and purpose. Now before we dive into today's episode, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel and click the bell for future notifications so that you never miss one of my podcast episodes of either the Numerology Show or Cosmic Conversations, or indeed some of my transmissions, which will help to activate the next layer of your spiritual awakening. I'm the author of the Starseed Ascension Guide and the Cosmic Family Oracle cards, both designed to help you to reconnect to your higher self and remember who you truly are. If you want to dive deeper, we have an online membership portal called the Oversoul Codex Collective, where you can join a like-minded group of starseeds from all across the planet as you delve into courses in numerology, colour therapy, and cosmic consciousness as well. You can also support this channel by becoming a member, either as a soul spark or a codex keeper. If you're feeling the call to join us together in person, then we also host consciousness expanding retreats in Perth, where you can really start to experience this incredibly immersive work within the community environment. Once again, your support really helps this channel to grow, so thank you for joining this team of galactic lightworkers from all across the planet, helping to expand consciousness and bring light into the darkness. Welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Hayden Crawford, founder of the Dreamtime Academy. Today, I'm beyond excited to welcome a very special guest, Daniel Scranton. Now, Daniel is a world-renowned channel, teacher and speaker who's brought through messages from the 9D Arcturian Council, the Creators, and many other high-frequency collectives. His work has inspired thousands to awaken to their multidimensional nature and connect more deeply with the galactic realms. As today, October the 29th, marks the moment when 3i Atlas reaches its closest proximity to our sun, we'll be diving deep into what it truly means for humanity. Daniel recently channeled a powerful message from the Creators about 3i Atlas, its consciousness, its purpose, and its connection to our awakening. We'll also explore themes of galactic citizenship, ET contact, the remembrance of Atlantis, and how these cosmic events are guiding us towards unity and higher consciousness. So settle in, open your heart, grab a cup of coffee, and let's journey into the stars together. So, welcome, Daniel. It's so lovely to have you here with us today.
It's so great to have the opportunity to speak to your audience. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I've been watching you for a while now, actually, Daniel. And yeah, I'm just really intrigued by the way you channel it. It's very interesting, very unique and different from a lot of other people. But could you begin by sharing, how your journey into channeling first began and how the creators made their presence known to you?
Yes, so I'll give you the very broad strokes of the early life, which was brought up Catholic, really absorbed all of it, like took it all to be, real and true, and tried to be a good little Catholic boy until I turned 18, went to Boston University, started learning about all these other cultures and their myths and how they seem to really coincide with what I learned as a Christian. And I thought, well, this isn't so unique to us, is it? All these beliefs about a flood and a creation myth and even a savior who dies and comes back 3 days later. It wasn't unique to Christianity, and it started me questioning everything that I believed to be true. So I gradually became atheist, and in my 20s, I spent most of my 20s as an atheist. And I really woke up spiritually because of Tony Robbins' interview of Deepak Chopra. And when I started hearing what Deepak was saying, I said, well, that aligns with everything that I believe about the human body and its ability to heal itself, and how if we just get out of the way and take care of ourselves, our bodies will be fine. And so I started to really investigate what Deepak Chopra was teaching besides that. And it very much was appealing to my logical mind and helped me realize there's more to the universe than what Darwin and Freud and science and psychology think about our existence. And so I continued going down the spiritual rabbit hole and found all kinds of teachers: Ram Dass, Wayne Dyer, Yogananda, Eckhart Tolle. And then I found the Conversations with God books. And I didn't even really think of them as channeled material until I spoke to a spiritual teacher of mine that I had met a few years prior to finding it. And she said, oh, you like channeled material, you should check out this. And so I checked out Emmanuel's books, they were called. Only 3 small books, didn't make big waves in the New Age. But then that introduced me to the Seth books. And once I found the Seth books, where Jane Roberts channeled a being called Seth from 1963 to 1984. That absolutely blew my mind in the same way that the Conversations with God books did. And that led me ultimately to Abraham and Esther Hicks. And here was somebody who was still alive and doing events, and I could go to those events. And so I started going to as many of Esther's events as I could, and on cruises and everything. And I became like their most frequent attendee of their workshops, I think, for a while, for a few years there. And that in addition to me having that awakening with the help of Deepak in around 1999, 2000, I haven't really pinpointed the date of it. And I started meditating every single day. I needed to meditate just to feel normal. And somebody in 2003 told me, oh, you should take a Reiki course. You should become certified as a Reiki. So I became certified as a Reiki. And then I was doing Reiki on people in early 2010. And I felt very much like I had trained myself through all my meditating to focus and open up to energy and let energy come through me. And that's when all the channeling stuff happened. Basically, everything for me happened in 2010. I started to feel energy. The energy started moving me around. I started making these whispering sounds like, and I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to channel? I didn't even think of it as a possibility until that happened. And then in March of 2010, I had a major extraterrestrial encounter. And I should point out that prior to that, I had no interest in ETs. I did not think that they were really relevant to our experience here. I didn't know how they were affecting us, or whether there was any kind of relationship between us and them. I just figured they exist. Every once in a while they pop into our reality and they pop out, and that was that. That's kind of what I learned through Abraham. And I also, in conversations with God, they briefly talk about these highly evolved beings and the way they live, but didn't talk about a relationship between us and them. So it was in 2010, because I had this experience, which I'll describe for your audience, because it's just the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. So I might as well talk about it in some detail. I actually was feeling quite suicidal at that time. I had a lot of pain in my body. I was in a marriage I didn't want to be in anymore, and I didn't want to hurt my wife. I didn't want to tell her, I don't really like being in this marriage anymore. I'd rather us split up. So I was just feeling very distraught about my life. And in spite of all the time I had spent learning from Abraham, and they're all about positive energy and being in joy and appreciation, I hit this rock bottom moment. And not that night that I was crying to myself and thinking about killing myself, but the night after that, I had this dream. And in the dream, I'm speaking to Abraham-Hicks' videographer, this guy named Peter Beamish. And I look at him in the dream and I said, I understand now about the other beings. And he was one of these people that I knew was interested in ETs. And I always kind of just nodded and internally rolled my eyes about all this ET talk. And so it was interesting that he was in the dream. We're in a desert, it looked like Arizona. And I look at him and I just say, I understand now about the other beings. And I woke up from that dream. That was the totality of the dream. And I felt all of this energy coming in through the crown of my head. And at first I didn't even recognize it as energy. I thought, oh, there's a chill in the air or something. But it starts moving through my body from head to toe, and it's complete ecstasy. It's beyond orgasmic. It's unbelievably good feeling. And so all I'm doing is saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I thought, because of all my Abraham studies, that this is the result of all the asking I had been doing from all the pain I had been in, and this was like me getting a healing. So I'm just enjoying it. I'm saying, oh my God, my back is arched so high. I think I'm only half on the bed. And then I'm asking it for more. I'm saying, more please, more please. And then I'd say, one more time. And it just kept coming and coming. And when I had the thought, I wonder what this has to do with that dream. And then I had the thought, I wonder what this has to do with aliens. As soon as I thought the word aliens in my head, I got a huge surge of it. And so then I just started repeating that over and over again. Aliens, aliens, aliens. I would do anything to get more of it. So then I started asking questions. I'm asking these questions inside my head. And the answer is coming in the form of energy. And if it was a yes, they'd give me a surge of energy. And if it was a no, I'd get nothing. So I asked questions like, are you here to heal me? And the answer was no. Are you here to play with me? The answer was yes. Are you from another dimension? The answer was yes. Would I be able to see you? And I think the answer was yes. That I'm a little foggy on. But at some point, I opened my eyes to see them in the room, because the whole thing was happening with me having a face mask on. I took it off. I opened my eyes. I'm looking around the room for them. And then the energy's flooding in again, but I'm not seeing anybody in the room with me. And so that led to the end of the experience, me opening my eyes and getting that final surge of energies. And from that moment on, I became much more interested in ETs and our relationship to them and what it all meant. And so I started telling everybody about it and, finding out, I already knew about Daryl Anka because in 2005, I heard there's a guy in the Valley. I was living in LA, and there's the San Fernando Valley in LA. There's this guy in the Valley who channels a being named Bashar, and you can go to his house and get a private session with him. And so I did that in 2005, and I had my session with Bashar, and I liked it. but I decided I was more into the Abraham stuff. So I kind of went down the Abraham path for those 5 years until I had my ET encounter. And when I went to his house and had the session, I didn't even know I was talking to an alien. I just thought Bashar is a name, like Abraham's a name, like Seth's a name. Like I didn't think anything of it. But then I learned this is an ET, and I started going to Bashar workshops and asking questions. And then in October of 2010, so in that like 7 month span, I'm trying to get this energy to come back. I'm trying to find it again. I'm trying to give it to myself through meditation and focus, and I'm getting like goosebumps and stuff like that, but nothing that comes close to what it was. And I'm starting to have these dry heaves, like I'm going deep within meditation, and I'm retching. I'm like going through the motions of throwing up, but not actually doing it. And I started doing that at an Abraham workshop in Asheville, North Carolina, in October of 2010, so 15 years ago. And I asked Abraham, I got in the hot seat. Not everybody gets called on at these things, but I got lucky. My hand actually raised itself. So I was sitting there and somebody else was in the hot seat, and I would never raise my hand when somebody else was talking to Abraham, but my hand started going slowly up by itself, and then boom, she gets out, goosebumps all up and down. They call on me. I ask them what's going on with me. They said, you're going to do this thing that Esther does, but you've got to work through your resistance to it first. And so just keep doing what you're doing. And I actually thought they were going to say to me, you're trying too hard. You shouldn't be doing this. Just go back to being the guy who asks questions and let the channeling to the professionals. But they actually gave me the nudge I needed. So I had actually, in between those two events of March and October, ended that marriage I didn't want to be in. And so I met a woman immediately on an Abraham cruise in July. Like as soon as I was single, I met someone, and she and I fell madly in love. And she was in England and I was in LA. So we were Skyping all the time, and we were 4 to 6 hours at a time just on Skype. And so after Abraham gave me that green light, we started incorporating this time for me to channel. And early on, I knew I was getting something because I would start doing this. As soon as I wanted to channel, it was just like, I could do that for 45 minutes to an hour of energies coming in, but it's just moving me around and a lot of jaw and face and head and neck movements and stuff, but nothing was coming out. So I was getting frustrated. I don't know how long we practiced for of me doing that, but eventually I made sounds, and then I eventually spoke for the creators for the first time. At some point, maybe November of 2010, I said, "We are here for you." And I said, "Oh, I didn't say that." That just came out of me. So then I knew I had broken through to channeling, and ever since then I've been channeling the creators, and then all the others came along since then.
Oh my God. It's like, that's a lot. That's a lot of information, Daniel. But I'll tell you what, though, it sounds like you've had, apart from obviously meeting Esther and Jerry, Hicks and Bashar, and all the rest of it, a very similar initiation into this type of work, because I read all the same sort of books that you were talking about, with Conversations with God and the Seth material, and and that formed a huge part of my awakening. So I can appreciate the journey that you've been on, but it's incredible that you actually, you really put yourself out on a limb, and surrounded yourself with, they probably are the best channelers on the planet, and connected with the the ETs and everything as well. So for those that are, maybe not be familiar, like, who are the creators and how do they differ from the Arcturian Council or other collectives that you channel?
Well, first of all, when you're dealing with a non-physical collective consciousness, they don't generally give themselves a name. Now, we've given different beings names, and I don't know, if Archangel Michael, to the people that Archangel Michael appeared to or spoke through, initially said, call us Michael or call me Michael. Maybe that was the case, but with the creators, they started coming through me and saying, and I remember I was on another Abraham cruise, and this is like shortly after I had started channeling. I'm like, all right, you got to tell me what to call you. My ex was just calling them grandpa, and I was like, that's not really appropriate. And so I wanted a name, and I channeled them saying through me, pick a friggin', pick a friggin', pick a friggin', pick a friggin'. And I still didn't. I was like, okay, we're going with grandpa then, because I'm not picking a name. And then it wasn't until sometime in 2012 that I sat down and I did an automatic writing exercise that somebody had given me. I forget who it was. And I wrote down the word, the creators, right? And so I said, okay, well, that's as good as any name that I could have come up with for them. And of course, I don't know about you, you're kind of, you get things too, but a lot of us who start getting things doubt it like right away. We just go, I'm making that up. This is not real. All that stuff that we do, especially if you're a person who's not born with a tremendous amount of confidence, me, the product of two very anxious parents, I'm not somebody who walked around with his chest sticking out all the time. And, so I didn't go looking for confirmation that this was the right name. I just was doing everything I normally would do. And one of the things I was doing at the time was I was trying to relive some of my childhood experiences by getting bags of random Legos. Like I didn't want to get like the Lego set for the X-Wing fighter or the Millennium Falcon or something like that, where it's all instructions and you put it together. But I wanted the loose Legos like I had when I was a kid. So I would go on eBay and I'd search for Legos, and I'd buy these used Legos from people, and they'd come in like a garbage bag, in the mail. And I had done it several times. And after I got the name, the creators, and I did the writing, I just type in Legos on eBay, and almost every set that came up in the results had the word creator in it. And I had never noticed that before, but that's a name for a particular Lego set. So I went, oh, okay, I got it. That's the right name. So I stuck with it. But even then, I had to channel, who are they, where are they from? They are a 12th dimensional collective of non-physical consciousness. They are universal architects, which means one of the things they do is help to co-create. They're not the only creators of this universe, but they've played a role, and there are other universal architects out there as well that I'm sure we're all part of co-creating the universe as we know it, this universe of duality and polarity.
Good answer. Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's interesting that you're talking about the archetype of the architect as well, because it's something that I'm delving into myself a bit at the moment, is the oversoul archetypes, and the architect is featuring quite heavily within the deck of cards that I've just created. And I think that it's an important archetype to mention, really, especially at the moment. As do you find that they're more active right now as we're trying to create New Earth?
Well, what's true for me is that for 3 years I only channeled the creators, and in 2013 I discovered a fairy named Ophelia that I could channel, and I started channeling her. And then the Hathors, and then Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel started coming through, the founders, and Kuan Yin and Pleiadian High Council at 7. So I started really branching out from 2013 on. And back in, I want to say 2023, I lost my voice in July of 2023. And which is very traumatic for someone who, channels for a living. Luckily, it coincided with a vacation that I had already planned to go on with my family. So my voice was not allowing the tones to come through in the way they normally do for the Arcturians. But it was great for channeling, what's it called? Throat singing, kind of, Tuvan throat singing, Tibetan, all that stuff. And so it just so happened I was channeling this group called Thymus, which is, they call themselves that. They're the collective of ascended masters. And they come through with that guttural sound. So I started channeling them instead of the Arcturians for the first time for the daily message that I put out for the first time in 7 years. I'd only channeled the Arcturians for 7 years with the daily messages I put out. And then I brought in Thymus. And then after I brought in Thymus, I kind of opened the floodgates to everybody. And the creators were ready to come in and give us more of their daily wisdom. So I began channeling them more frequently, and most people who were following me probably thought he only channels Arcturians. And now people know about the creators and all the others that I can channel. That, sometimes I intentionally set out to channel a group, and other times, like with Thymus, and Saint Germain and Melchizedek, they're just coming in, and I'm just like, okay, it's a big tent here. Everybody's welcome,
Yeah. So how does your personal vibration shift when you connect with the creators? Do they have a distinct energy signature?
Yes, it's masculine. It's broad. It's expansive. It's non-physical and high vibrational. So you can imagine what that feels like. You do feel that there's more energy present in your body. They hold my arms up. I mean, all of them do really hold my arms up. My fingers flicker when I channel. I make an unintentional mudra, which I didn't even know that this was called a mudra until my yoga instructor friend told me, you're making a mudra when you channel. And so there's a lot that goes on. Esther Hicks describes it as having your toe in a light socket. And I think that's a really good explanation of what you feel when you channel. It's like there's extra energy present, but it's not like you shoved a bobby pin in the light socket. It's like you just, like your big toe is just in there enough to get something and feel it and give yourself an extra boost, or like a feeling that there's more present than normal. So all the sounds and tones and involuntary movements and stuff, that all helped me realize, like, okay, what I'm experiencing is real. I'm not just making all this up in my head because I want to, But yeah, there's some that feel very feminine. Obviously, the fairy named Ophelia feels very feminine, and I sound basically like Marilyn Monroe when I channel Ophelia. It's very, very feminine sounding voice, and others too that I wouldn't have expected come through like that, like Archangel Gabriel. But it's a different feeling channeling a non-physical collective from the 12th dimension than it is channeling someone who's like in the 5th, like an Ophelia or like a group of ETs that's very much closer to us in vibration. And it's actually easier to channel those who are way up in the 12th dimension. And I think that's because they're non-local, they're so ubiquitous, they're so big and so powerful and so everywhere that you can just more easily tap into and tell the difference between you and them,
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, actually, to be able to have a clearer connection to a 12th dimensional non-physical presence than those that sit closer, because I suppose they are it's more puritanical, that vibration, less sort of polluted with any form of duality. Okay, so you recently channeled a message, didn't you, from
Yeah.
the creators, and that is that Three Eye Atlas is a
Yeah.
replay of Atlantis. Could you share how this
No,
message
it
came
isn't.
through?
They basically said it isn't.
Oh, it isn't.
It isn't because, but it's triggering people to think that it might be, because it was a comet that took out Atlantis, and we in many ways are right where we were during Atlantean times, where there's this huge split going on, and there's a huge emphasis on technology, and of course we have suddenly AI is everywhere, and so the fear is that the hope is for a lot of people that these are ETs in a ship and they're coming and making themselves known. In reality, we have so many ships all over our skies right now, that some people are tuning themselves up to be able to see them and experience them and have telepathic communication with them. So we don't really need a three-eye atlas type of experience to tell us that, or that some people would think, well, this is like the first ship or something, or that it's rare for us to have spaceships in our skies, which we called UFOs, now we call UAPs, but they're really spaceships, let's face it. And of course, there are man-made ones too. Humans have reverse engineered, and our militaries have all kinds of stuff we don't know about. But the vast majority of the ones you're going to see are going to be of extraterrestrial origin. But the fear is that it would be another kind of Atlantean situation where this is coming down, it's going to hit some landmass or even in the ocean and wipe out a whole bunch of us. But they were saying that's not going to happen, although what is happening is there's more speculation about ETs and spaceships because of it. There's more of us looking up at the skies, wondering about these things. And simultaneously, any fears or traumas that we need to release around Atlantis can come up for people to clear, which is something I think we've done many times now, since more people are awake to the truth that we once had this great civilization that fell because they basically became a situation where we needed to do a reset. And that's the Noah's Ark story as well, this reset where everything's flooded, because we were just going in the wrong direction.
Mm. Yeah, so it's kind of almost like reliving the collective trauma of the great floods and the Yuga cycles and all of this sort of stuff. But actually, the truth is, no, it's not. It's none of that. So from your perspective, then, is Three Eye Atlas a comet or a consciousness, or is it something more multidimensional?
I think it's a comet and and it has consciousness. And I think what the scientists, the people who are studying it through the telescopes and the technology that we have are discovering is that it really is otherworldly. I mean, I think the reason why it's called 3I is because it's the third object that we've found that is not of our solar system, that they know is coming from outside of our solar system. And so again, that's a good thing that we are starting to recognize that, hey, things that are out there are different from what we have in here, and they're realizing that there's certain aspects of it that don't fit with what we would expect, which again is getting people to theorize and scratch their heads. And it's all very good because we need to expand our minds and recognize that, especially science, science has this hubris of thinking like, well, where we are right now is so fantastic and we know so much, but we're always proving that we didn't really know so much. So in 20 years from now, we'll realize how little we knew in 2025. And I think that this is a part of that too, of us recognizing that like what we thought was true wasn't really the whole truth, and there's so much more out there.
Absolutely. No, it is interesting. I was watching a documentary last night on YouTube about those three different objects, but obviously I think Three Eye Atlas is behaving significantly differently to the first two, and it seems to just have an intelligence that the other two failed to possess. So it's quite interesting to sort of see how it has, impacted the collectives and the expectations. And I think you're right. It's going to help people want to tap in more into what is around us and has always been around us for many thousands of years. So have you actually seen the ETs now? Have you seen the extraterrestrials or the multidimensional beings? Because you mentioned before that you didn't get to see them when you had that sort of very cosmic experience. But have you seen them since then?
Not in physical form, no, but I did have an encounter with a spaceship in 2012 that was on the summer solstice when I was living in Los Angeles, and it coincided with a date that many channelers were talking about, including Bashar was saying, "Hey, look, this is a time when we're lifting a quarantine that's been on Earth." And there was a quarantine that said anybody who's not supposed to be here, doesn't have business being here with some human being, they're not allowed. And there's sort of guardians, and there's things set up to keep us from being interfered with. And I could be getting this wrong, but it was something like that. It was there was some kind of aspect of the quarantine that was lifted where they were, I think, also being self-managed. Like the ETs were saying, we are holding ourselves back, the benevolent ones, and they're not going to hold themselves back anymore as of June 21st, 2012 or something like that. And that's the date where I went to a channeling. Somebody was channeling up in Ojai, California, and I was living in LA. And so I had driven up there with two of my friends, and it was beautiful night. Ojai under the stars is a beautiful place to be. And driving home from that event on the freeway, and the weirdest spaceship you've ever seen came flying right at the car. And it wasn't big. I would say maybe it was like this big, maybe, as much as I can create with my arms, maybe a little bit bigger, but it was definitely oval-ish shaped. It was kind of amorphous, and it was kind of like multicolored and also a bit translucent, but also had some opaque quality to it that you couldn't quite see through it. So you knew that there was something there, and it literally was flying right at the windshield. And at the last second, it went over to the passenger side and went by the car. And me and the passenger looked at each other and said, "Did you see that?" I don't even think we said words. I think we were just like mouths open, like, what just happened? What was that? And again, it's not what you would expect a ship to look like, but so it must have been a very small scout type ship. I don't know if there were any beings aboard it or not, or what type of beings. I think when we think about ETs, we also tend to think either humanoid or gray or reptilian, but there are more species of ETs out there than we can possibly imagine. And so who knows what kind of being may have been aboard that ship.
So you still don't really know. It's
I don't know.
you don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because I had only one where I saw a physical ship myself when we were living in England, and we were sitting in the garden, and it was a fairly sort of overcast day, and I looked up and I just saw it was a classical saucer, really, and it went in between the clouds within 2 or 3 seconds. That's all I saw it for, and then it was gone. But it was like that was enough, for me to go, oh right, okay, so this is real. It's not
Real.
just all phony baloney. It's interesting when you have those encounters, and especially when they become, sort of your perception of them is physical, because a lot of this stuff it's about sensing energies and vibrations rather than it being, what we would expect a physical space vessel to look like. But how can we consciously align with this energy, during this particular time, do you think? How can more and more people start attuning to it so that they can start receiving information? Because of, when I was in my late teens, I was always given the information that they're always here, but you just have to raise your vibration in order to be able to connect with them.
Mhm.
Is that the same advice and guidance that you would give?
Yeah, in fact, I was just in Noosa on vacation last month and staying at an Airbnb and waking up in the middle of the night and going to the bathroom and remembering that I was dreaming about ETs in my sleep, and one of them like ran past me in the dream and the other one was sitting on a couch. And as I was remembering that dream, I just got a full like goosebump energy surge type thing. And then and then I'm walking back to the bed and I'm remembering it again and I got another one. So it happened. I had two of these like real confirmations that just by remembering this dream that I was getting this real indication that it was real. So that's one of the things you can always do too, is like as you're drifting off to sleep, say, hey, this is the kind of encounter I want to have with these beings. I want to remember it. I want it to be good and good feeling and all that stuff. But it seems like, and having worked now as a channeler for 15 years, I've spoken to so many people who've had so many different encounters with ETs. And I can't say that there's one common denominator that connects them all, but I can say that for sure people are waking up in the middle of the night a lot and seeing ETs at their bedside, at the foot of their bed, and they're clearly ETs, or they're clearly not human. And sometimes they're not sure, and that's what they're asking about in the session, like, who was that? But we all we all have the ability to look out at the sky, and during the day or at night, doesn't matter. At night, you can definitely see a lot of, stars and lights in the sky, and maybe that makes it easier to believe for people, because obviously this is also a manifestation. Like everything else, you want to manifest this experience, so you have to believe that it's possible and possible for you, and you're worthy of it and all of that. So people can always do that work, but certainly when we go to sleep at night, we leave our bodies. We don't stay in the sleeping body. We, as consciousness, go off and do all kinds of things. And the majority of those things that we're doing are with what we would consider to be extraterrestrial and non-physical beings. And I think it can be hard for us to remember what those things are. Sometimes people will say, my wife will even say, like, last night I was helping souls cross over. I just remember doing it and all those types of things. So there's a lot that goes on in the astral while we're asleep. And some people fear that and because they hear bad stories about the lower astral. But, there's the lower astral and then there's the higher astral, and you just want to have those experiences on the higher astral plane. But there's actually nothing wrong with the lower astral either. There's plenty of good experiences that people can have there.
Yeah, so there's quite a few planes of consciousness, isn't there? We've got the physical, the astral, the etheric, and we've got the spiritual, the causal, the celestial. And I guess that, the celestial plane, is that where the architects are? Is that cosmic consciousness, or is it above and beyond all of that?
I think it's above that. Yeah, I think it is. It's right. There's source, and then there's archangels and ascended masters and universal architects and beings like that are, hugely important teachers. Like, I think that's where the Abraham collective is. They're up in the 12th dimension where they can reach the most people.
Beautiful. Is it something that you mentioned that your mouth goes a bit strange when you're about to feel, them coming through? Does that always happen, or are you able to sort of set an intention and then connect with the creators?
I've acclimated to these energies now to the point where it looks much better to the to the observer. But back in 2012, first of all, the creators came through me and they started saying, sing and ring, ring and sing and ring and sing and ring and sing, and they'd say it over and over and over again. And I eventually got the message and I said, I'm going to go take voice lessons now. And so I did. I went and I started taking voice lessons with my teacher, Kimberly. and her studio was called Singing for Your Soul, and it was perfect. And her boyfriend was a channeler. Everything was perfect. It was all perfectly aligned. She was in Santa Monica, which is a place I love to go anyway. And so she taught me how to tone. And then at the same time, I was learning from Wendy Kennedy's Pleiadians about the power of tone and sound and how powerful overtones are. So I went to Kimberly one day and I said, can you teach me how to overtone? And she said, no, because I don't know how to do it. And so next thing I know, I go in the channeling state. And at that time, when I would go in, the creators would come through with some light language or something, and then they would say, we are here for you. But this time, they came through with overtones, which meant they moved my lips, tongue inside of my mouth and throat around to make tones. And the undertone is just like a ooh, and then the overtone is kind of over that. So you're hearing two sounds at the same time with overtones. And ever since they came through like that, then every being I've ever channeled since then has always come through with tones first, and then they speak.
Yeah, yeah, because I've been like observing the way you do it, and I was interested to find out, why that process has to take place before the information comes through. But now that's given me a good understanding, I think. Um, so how do you actually feel about it though? When it starts happening, do when you first started it, did you get scared at all, or did you know what was really taking place?
I knew what was taking place. I had only been exposed to positivity when it came to channeling, conversations with God, Seth, Abraham. None of them are talking about things you need to be afraid of. So I just had no fear that, first of all, I wasn't just a kid in my attic with a Ouija board, like not knowing what I was doing. I was someone who had been meditating for over 10 years. I started meditating before I even woke up spiritually. I knew that was a good thing, and I knew that it brought me into a higher vibrational state. So I knew I was raising my vibration to channel. And so I know it's just simple physics, really. If you're going up here, then anything that's down here has less access to you. So, but I didn't even really need to do that math in order to trust it. I just knew I'm doing Reiki on people. I'm meditating. These are things that are raising my vibration. So anything that's coming of that is also going to be good. And also, I'm lucky that I never was exposed to the people who talk about things that you're supposed to be afraid of, and I still don't believe that we have any need to be afraid of anything.
I feel like that as well. So, would you be able to demonstrate a connection with the creators, or even if it isn't the creators, maybe the Arcturian Council or the Andromedans or whoever is that something that you would be able to almost demonstrate for the people watching today?
Hmm. And when they come through, do you want to talk to them? Do you want to ask them questions?
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay. Here we go. So I just have to set the intention and open up, and then I just let it all happen. Yes, yes, yes. We are here for you. We are the creators. We are a 12th dimensional collective of non-physical beings, and we are here to help. We are very happy to share with you our energy, our vibration, and our wisdom. We come to you from a dimension that may seem foreign to you, but we want to assure all of you that you are all very much connected to the 12th dimension. It is what allows you to have a physical experience at all. And so there is no disconnect. It is not a far off place. It is right here, available to each and every one of you. And you are fueled by the energies of the non-physical. And so anytime you want to give yourselves a boost of energy, you can always summon forth more of your oversoul, more non-physical consciousness, help from above, help from archangels, ascended masters, any of which you can name as individuals, but you can also reach out to either one or both collectively. You are meant to be working with these extraterrestrials, as we are not from your planet, not from Earth, not of Earth, and therefore we are very open to assisting you in recognizing the connections that you have all across the universe. And of course, we also are here to help you in making your connections to other beings from all across the galaxy. And right now, of course, you have one in your solar system that is getting a lot of attention, and it does affect you all. The consciousness of 3i Atlas is affecting you all. It is offering a vibration. It does have a vibrational signature, and it is interacting with your sun. Now, your sun is always there, always projecting high frequency energy and information, offering attunements, activations, downloads, upgrades, the works to all of you. So you're also paying more attention to your sun as a result of 3i Atlas, and you can pay more attention to all the celestial bodies now and recognize your relationship to them, how they affect you, and the consciousness that they hold, because everything is connected. We are really all one being, and we are having an effect on each other. There's always a ripple effect. And so what you think and what you feel and what you do and what you say all goes out there into the ethers and affects everything else. And we invite you to consider the enormity of that, and also the fact that you are never alone. You are never doing it all alone. You always have help. You always have helpers. So just reach out, reach up, open up, make yourselves available, and we'll always be open for business 24/7. Now, we understand that you may have some questions you would like to ask us.
I do indeed. Yes, I would be very curious to ask a couple of questions to you about, first of all, the 12th dimension of consciousness. Can you explain like what it's like to be there? I know what from what I understand it's non-physical,
Yes?
but are you surrounded by colors? Is there a feeling? What's it like being there?
Mostly you would experience it as a feeling. You would experience it as a blissful, peaceful, loving sensation. Now, we do experience tone, sound, color, even shape, because we are always in that process of creating. And we have minds, we have the ability to imagine, and to imagine things into existence means form has to be considered. And so we are always working with all parts of the universe, all parts of the multiverse, to consider what would be better, what would be a better experience than this, how can we improve upon that, what would this experience here lead to, how will this expand consciousness more, how can we help these beings in the way that they want to be helped. And so there's a lot to be considered here and a lot to be done, even though we don't have any arms or hands to actually move anything around with. We certainly can interact with energy, interact telepathically, and send transmissions wherever they are needed and wherever they are even being asked for on a subconscious level. And so there is always an interplay, always interaction going on between physical and non-physical. And we are, of course, very aware of all of you.
I'd also like to understand how the Andromedans, specifically the Andromedan Council of Light, are what's their role? I feel a deep resonance with the Andromeda constellation and the galaxy, and specifically with Mirage in the Andromeda constellation. What is the Andromedans' role at this time, and how do they work with other members of the Galactic Federation of Planets, such as the Arcturians and the Lyrans, the Sirians and the Pleiadians?
Yes, every star system in the galaxy has its own theme, its own speciality. And the Andromedans are very much interested in color, music, sound, and working with the concept of impermanence. And so everything in Andromeda is seen as an ongoing art project where it's more important to be creative. It's more important for things to be interactive and be in flux, in much like a dream state is, than for there to be solid states of static experiences and objects. And that is Andromeda's contribution to the consciousness of the galaxy. And of course, the beings in the Andromedan system are more non-physical than physical. So there's less physicality and more of an ascension has occurred of the physicalized beings into non-physical consciousness. And so a lot of the contributions are done energetically and with non-physical consciousness rather than beings showing up with their bodies and sitting at a round table and talking about the issues facing the galaxy, although that does happen with some of the fourth dimensional Andromedans.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, it's actually makes perfect sense, and it feels very in alignment to uh, to what I'm sensing. So then, how is the Andromedan frequency able to incarnate in a human body? So, for example, I believe that my main galactic origin is from the Andromeda constellation. So, my consciousness feels like it's come in from here. How is that possible for that consciousness to physically get inside a like the human vessel?
Well, of course, you are also talking about the nature of the entire universe as a holographic structure where all of the parts are contained within the whole, and the whole is contained within all of the parts. And if the whole is contained within all of the parts, then all of the parts are contained within all of the parts. And so it is very possible for you to sense right now that you have a deep connection to your Andromedan selves and to activate that cross connection to those beings, those consciousnesses that are incarnate there now, that would be past or future or simultaneous to you based on the linear space-time experience of reality. And so when you're making more of a connection to a particular star system, you know that you are exploring those themes, the themes of that star system, more in depth than you are, say, of what's going on with the Pleiadian star system or the Lyran system.
Understood. So, what are the creators most excited about for humanity as a collective as we enter this next phase of our awakening and interstellar contact?
We are very excited about you all really discovering experientially who you really are and having the experience of that, feeling it, knowing it through your own experience instead of just being told who you are, and what that will look like and what you will create as a result of that. But ultimately, the feelings that you have upon discovering who you are and your galactic connections, those ripples will go out throughout the galaxy and throughout the universe, and everyone benefits from humanity's awakening there on Earth and you joining the party of the galactic family in an official capacity. And that will, of course, open you up to many more possibilities, much more connection to the non-physical, channeling connections, other connections that you can make, which you will make as you continue to move forward.
Okay, that's beautiful. So, the new Earth is something that is very popular in the zeitgeist. The architects are playing a key role, I presume, in the creation of the new Earth templates. Does this move away from the foundation of duality and into pure unity, or will there always be an element of duality on the Earth plane?
There will always be duality throughout this universe. However, you will experience less extremes of that duality as you move forward. You don't need to go all the way into the depths of despair and all the way into the darkest pockets of the dark in order to know yourselves as the light. You've already had those experiences. You've chalked them up. They're done. They're cataloged, and you can draw from them at any time and learn from them and grow from them. But you don't need to continue to create that which you've already created. And so the new Earth is your experience of Earth from a new perspective. It's you that changes. You are the ones who are evolving and then going to the Earths, because it's not that one Earth is splitting into two Earths, there's an infinite number of Earths, and you're always traveling to a new Earth in every microsecond. So you're getting to better and better feeling Earths, Earths that reflect to you the consciousness expansion that you are doing, and it will then solidify you on a path of ascension as you continue on towards better and better feeling Earths that are more reflective of the truth of who you are as souls and source energy beings. And so what's being created right now is the experience of these Earths that have always existed, because all of creation that does exist has always existed. And what we co-create together are new experiences that can be had, and new feelings and growth and potentials that can be reached. But everything that ever will exist does exist right now within Source. Everything exists within Source. And it's really about discovery. It's about uncovering the truths and uncovering the many different portals that can be traveled through to go to the different aspects of source energy that we are all a part of and always existing within.
Now, there is talk about there being um, the holes of Amente underneath the Great Pyramids. So, a lot of beings of light are allegedly living underneath the pyramids and obviously within the center of the earth, the inner earth dwellers. How are they able to survive in the inner earth? Do they have to change the dimensional frequency,
Yes.
such as the giants and some of the Lemurians?
Yes, it's not that they are existing within the fourth dimension where you are, and if you just dug a hole deep enough, you would find them. You would have to shift to their vibration and to the fourth density in order to be able to see them and communicate with them. And it is because it is a higher density that you don't have the same constraints that you do on the surface, and why you don't actually have to figure out how they're getting air and food and all the things that you all need to survive. It's because they exist in a quasi-physical state.
Understood. Okay.
Yes.
When do you see, I mean, obviously I realize time isn't linear, but in Earth years, when do you see the majority of people being able to interact with their multidimensional beings of light from other planetary systems or dimensions of consciousness?
Well, of course, anyone can do it at any time that they choose to, and they choose to focus themselves into that vibration where this type of communication is possible. It's available to everyone, but not everyone is there to make that choice. Some people are there to live out certain lives that their souls wanted to experience, and therefore it's just simply not on the menu for them in this lifetime. For those who want to have it, for those who want to explore consciousness, go within, meditate, ask for experiences that you can remember upon waking up, and continue to explore all that you are interested in, all that raises your vibration, that brings you into a higher frequency, and you will have those encounters right now. But as far as meeting face to face with physical ETs who will come in their ships, that experience will be available to many people in 3 years.
That really is quite soon.
Yeah.
So in 3 years' time, and this is going to be open for people who are working on themselves, that have raised their frequency, that have done their trauma healing, their shadow work, and they are already tapping into that sense of multidimensional consciousness. For those that haven't done any work on themselves, does that mean that they aren't going to be able to see or feel any of this?
They will have the opportunity, and whether they make that choice or not will be up to their free will. Those of you that are doing that work that you described in all the ways that you did will be the ones who can build those bridges for those who are currently not awake, not doing the work on themselves that they want and need to do ultimately. And so that's one of the roles that those who are awakened get to play, is you get to play the role of those who teach, those who lead the way, lead by example, and help others to find their path to making ET contact if that's something they want to do.
And there is a bit of fear mongering going on, I think, in certain spiritual communities about there being destructive consequences to the earth, such as wars or environmental shifts, maybe tsunamis or the more, sort of tornadoes and, extreme weather conditions. Is this something that is part of the process that humanity has to go through in able to be able to ascend and to align with New Earth, or is that just that only accessible to people that have the fear or are buying into that narrative? Or, does everybody have to experience that, or will there be some that won't experience it at all?
Correct. Everyone is creating their own reality right now in terms of what they are experiencing of the earth that you are on right now and experiencing right now. Of course, there's a wide array of different experiences that people are having. Of course, there are wars still going on, and there are tsunamis and earthquakes and all kinds of things happening right now. But do you need to have a whole array of these things to happen all at once and to experience flooding and super volcanoes and massive earthquake after massive earthquake? No, but there will continue to be those who believe that to be true, because they will continue to believe that people need that in order to wake up. But as we said, some people will just choose not to, and that's okay. That's part of their journey to not awaken in this lifetime. And those of you who do know that your vibration and what you focus on creates your reality, you will continue to focus your way into better and better feeling states and have the experience of better and better feeling realities as a result. And therefore, it's not that everyone has to do that, or that it's a necessity because of what you've been doing in living out of harmony with the planet, because that's one of the things that the ETs will be helping you to do, is to recognize, hey, here's how you can live in harmony with your planet. Here's how you can clean up your oceans and your air and your water and your soil. And here's how you can move forward in a more sustainable way that treats all life as precious. And so humans who will want that will be around for that and will be saying yes to it. And even those who are reluctant about even admitting that there's any sort of problem that's being caused by humans will have to go along with the consensus of most people who are saying, yes, we would like to have cleaner air and water, and we would like our food to actually be good for us. And so that's something that's going to happen. That's something that you're going to come into alignment with, and you're going to start living in harmony with your planet, which will help all of humanity to live in harmony with each other and with the animals as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. That sounds glorious. Like heaven on earth, bringing heaven back to earth.
Indeed.
Is there an opportunity for humans to transcend the birth-death cycle?
It is possible to ascend without going through a typical death experience. Yes, that possibility is open to people.
So how does one do that?
First of all, by not fearing it, and secondly, by knowing more fully and experientially who you really are as spirit, by operating in the world as the source energy being that you truly are and were created to be, then you don't ever need to be called back by your soul, so to speak, into the non physical and have that typical type of death experience. You can continue to raise your consciousness, continue to ascend into quasi physical, and then eventually, over a long period of time, non physical form.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's something definitely to aspire to. Well, listen, I can imagine that Daniel probably wants to come back into the space around him. So I want to thank you, creators, for your wisdom today. I appreciate you being here and thank you very much for sharing.
You're very welcome. We are the creators and we love you very much.
Well
I
done. That's very, very interesting, Daniel. Do you feel tired, like after you've been through a channeling like that, or do you feel energized?
I'm energized by my channeling. Yeah, I'm very fortunate for that because my relationship to vitality has been something of an issue for me to face since my early 20s, and it's the reason why I started meditating. I mentioned earlier I started meditating before I woke up spiritually. I felt like I needed to meditate. And I wasn't able to take naps. So the only way I knew to rejuvenate my energy was through meditation. And now I get to work like this all day on my work days where my eyes are closed and I'm channeling. And lucky for me, it gives me energy and doesn't take energy away.
I was going to say because I don't think I'd be able to keep my arm up like that for that length of time. I'd be exhausted.
Yeah, luckily it's like I said, the energy holds it up and they switch every once in a while. So
It's brilliant. It's very good. And actually, I noticed that when the creators speak through you, they have a very distinct voice as well that sounds, different to yours,
yeah.
subtly different to yours. And
Yeah.
do you always remember what they've said, or do you, when you like go back and watch replays of your channelings, are you often, sort of surprised about what's come through?
I'm not surprised, but I couldn't repeat it all back to you right now, but I would recognize it when I watched it. Now, a channeling from 10 years ago that I did, it may pop up on my Facebook feed every once in a while, and I'll start reading it, and then I'll get to the bottom and be like, "Oh, I channeled that."
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a big pat on the back, isn't it? A bit of an accolade. So, Daniel, like finally today, do you have a personal message that you feel guided to share with starseeds? That have like been waking up for many years now. Specifically around 2020, I think a lot of starseeds really started understanding their galactic origins. What message do you have for those people specifically, or those souls specifically, to encourage them to keep going with the work that they're doing?
I think there's always a reason why all of us are coming across certain information, like the information on star seeds, on different groups in different star systems, and whatever one you feel most attracted to. Like I do remember you asking about the Andromedans. That's for you to explore. Like I didn't have any real knowing as to why I felt like channeling Arcturians. I just felt like it, so I did it. So, and I'm really glad I did. So everybody who has that kind of inclination, I would just encourage you to follow it to the nth degree, to whatever extent you can. And then who knows, maybe after you go down your experience of checking out everything Syrian, then you'll want to go down Andromeda and then Pleiades and places like that, and you'll realize like, oh, I'm a very, very multi-dimensional starseed, and I don't just come from one place, and I didn't just come from one star system to incarnate on Earth, but I've been everywhere and am everywhere simultaneously right now, and I can draw from all of those experiences and bring my multi-dimensional self into more of a state of oneness.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's interesting how we like to attach as humans to one thing specifically, but we are, so much more than that. But it's a great place to start, I think. When people start their awakening, it's like, okay, they may receive information through a dream or, like a
Yeah,
download that they connect up with a certain place, and then it kind of evolves over time, which is beautiful. But thank you so much again, Daniel, for sharing all of your beautiful wisdom and your light with us today. Like I've genuinely enjoyed meeting with you. And the creators are incredible. They're these celestial, events that are taking place on the planet right now are really, I think, starting to um, catapult us into bigger and brighter versions of Earth. If you want to connect with Daniel, if you're watching today, then what's the best place for people to get in contact with you, Daniel?
my website, danielscranton.com, and my YouTube channel, which is just my name. So you can type in, if you want, youtube.com/ Daniel Scranton with a capital D and a capital S, and you'll get there. And if you just search for me on YouTube, my channel, because a lot of people replay my stuff on their channel. So you'll just want to look for a YouTube channel that is my name, and then that will be mine. It has my picture on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a brilliant channel. And of course, you do courses,
Yeah,
workshops, all your latest transmissions as well. So there's lots and lots of content on there for people to really start going down the rabbit hole and aligning with their full multidimensionality.
indeed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. And if you're ready to go deeper as well, remember Dreamtime Academy. We offer retreats, courses, workshops, cards, and of course the Starseed Ascension Guide, which is my brand new book that is now available on Amazon as well. So please remember to like, subscribe, and follow me on YouTube as well, and also over on Daniel's YouTube channel as well, because it really helps our channels to grow. And until the next episode, I hope you have an incredible experience. Don't forget to keep aligning with the stars and bring light into the darkness. See you next time round. Thanks again, Daniel.
Thank you.
Bye for now.